Shalom lekulam. Good afternoon. We're talking from Multipoint. We want to, first of all, start a few sentences in Hebrew for our audience in Israel, and then we jump to our friends from Invicti. אז שלום לכולם. תודה שבאתם והצטרפתם אלינו. אנחנו שמחים מאוד לפגוש אתכם שוב. למי שעוד לא מכיר, כמה דקות נדבר על מולטיפוינט, ואז נעבור לכלי עצמו, ובסוף ה-45 דקות יהיה זמן לשאלות ותשובות. אוקיי? יש גם את הצ'אט אם אתם רוצים, ויש את הפרטים שלנו, לשלוח מיילים בהמשך, למי שיהיו שאלות או בעיות כלשהן. אז כמה דקות למולטיפוינט. מולטיפוינט היא כיום חברת ההפצה הישראלית הבינלאומית היחידה בישראל. היא מפיצה בארץ ועוד 6 מדינות מספר מאוד רחב של כלים בתחום הסייבר סקיוריטי. אוקיי? אנחנו נוגעים בעצם בכל הרובדים בצד הטכני של הארגונים בכלל, בצד של הסייבר, בתקשורת, וכמובן מספקים שירותי Professional Services ברמה מאוד מאוד גבוהה. יש לנו סניפים, הסניף הראשי נמצא בישראל כמובן, בכפר סבא, סניפים ביוון, טורקיה, אסטוניה, ספרד, פורטוגל, דובאי, ולאחרונה פתחנו גם נקודה בסינגפור, ובכל אזור ואזור אנחנו מפיצים פתרונות סייבר. הכלים שאנחנו משווקים ברחבי העולם מחולקים לפי תחומים, כמו שאתם רואים יש לנו רשימה מאוד רחבה של כלים, החל מוורוניס ונטריקס ועד פיירמון וקלה, יש פה כלים בינלאומיים וגם כלים ישראלים רבים. הכוח של מולטיפוינט הוא בעצם מאותה חברת באסק, זאת אומרת זה value added distributor שיש לו גם יכולת טכנית לסייע, לתת פריסל ופוסטס ללקוחות בכל הכלים שלנו. בגדול, אנחנו נעבור תוך דקה לחברנו מאינביקטי, שבו נציג את הפתרון של אינביקטי, שהוא בעצם הפתרון החזק היום בשוק בתחום הדאסט. הדאסט זה כלי שמנתח, בודק ומביא מידע על אתרי האינטרנט והאפליקציות. אז אני עכשיו מעביר את הרמקול לליאם. ליאם, this was the short explanation about Multipoint in Hebrew. I will share out my document and pass it to you. And after you finish, they will have the opportunity to ask and answer questions, okay? Thank you.
Sounds good, yes. Perfect, let me start by sharing my screen. And Marcel, if you can just confirm once it's showing.
We see all.
Perfect, perfect, thank you very much. So first of all, hi everyone. My name is Liam. I'm a senior solution engineer with Invicti. I've been working with the company for around 3 years and a half almost now. Today we'll be looking at Invicti Enterprise. Now bear in mind that Invicti Enterprise has 2 different deployment methods. We have the on-premise, which you can install on your local machine, but we also have the on-demand version, which is also highly scalable. Now keep in mind that both options, both the on-premise and the online, are in fact a hybrid solution, meaning that if you would like to deploy internal agents on internal machines, you would have the options too. So therefore, there's no limitations on internal scanning or applications which are not yet publicly available, but only internally accessible. We can still reach these agents by simply deploying either Windows, Linux, or also Docker agents, which will be used as a source to actually conduct the scan itself. So these were the actual scan will be conducted and then reported back to the main installation or to the main online hosting. If you have any questions, type them in the chat, and then at the end we will also review them one by one. In the meantime, looking at the dashboard section, straight away we are able to provide a high-level overview of what is in fact being scanned, and also the results that were identified. So for example, we have a total of 2 users, 13 websites, 43 completed scans. We have the following active issues. We have 2 scans which are scheduled for a future date and when they will be kicked off. We have the recent scans that were recently finished. We can also see, for example, this has the Jenkins icon. So this means that the scan was specifically conducted via the Jenkins CI/CD, since we can also integrate with your CI/CD integration tools. What severity vulnerabilities, what are the vulnerabilities open, what are the vulnerabilities which were fixed, and you can also interact with the following charts. But at the moment, we're looking, first of all, the past 3 months data, which we can also expand. But we're looking at all of the 13 applications. But to make it more accurate, to dive into the following data, you can also segment applications into groups. So for example, you have team 1, team 2, and team 3. You can segment these applications into the following groups and then filter depending on the specific group. So you can also go inside a specific group and see the activity that they are doing. So for example, as you can see, now we're in team 1. Obviously, team 1 has only 4 websites. It has 20 completed scans. These were the last scanned applications, and this is the following activity on team 1. And you could replicate that on multiple teams and assign and order the applications according to those groups. Again, feel free to post a question inside the chat box, and at the end, we will also review them one by one. In the meantime, jumping into a recent scan, so let's take an example of a finished scan and see the vulnerabilities that are being reported. So, so for example, let's take go back to recent scans. Let's take, for example, the PHP.1 Web 2. Now, since we've scanned this application multiple times, not just a single one, we'll have a full overview of the recent history and also the updated history, the full on this specific application. So we have, for example, we started scanning on the following. We saw a decrease in vulnerability, so our team was going well, but then there was another release, for example, last month, which had decreased the vulnerabilities from 7 back to 11. But you can also track the application identification. You can also track your fixes. And not just that, you also have a full overview. Okay, so these are the fixed vulnerabilities on this application. These are the open vulnerabilities on this applications. Together with these are the technologies used by this application and whether they are using the latest stable version. For example, PHP, we're on 5.2.6, which is out of date. Latest is 5.2.17. And these are the known vulnerabilities that you are at risk of since you have not updated to the latest suggested stable version. Besides that, you also have, and this is in fact one of my favorite areas, the trend matrix report. So not just giving you an alerting, but also giving you, in a way, a storyline, a single view storyline of on each scan that you have conducted and which vulnerabilities was in fact detected, or let's say was fixed and revived again, or was not found unless it was on the last scan. So it's a new vulnerability, and this will be available for each and single scan that you have conducted. So it's all being, in a way, included in a single view, which can also be exported to CSV. Now that is the trend matrix, but again, if we had to jump into a single scan, so looking at the vulnerabilities of a single scan, for example, taking one of a history scan from the side, over here we have the full overview of what was detected on the following scan session. So all the vulnerabilities categorized based on the severity. So we have the critical, we have the high, we have the medium, low, and informational ones. And we also have the scan summary. So what is the target, what policy? So policy is what we were scanning for. We have the scan profile, which we can also touch base later on. Reporting policy, since you can also create your own, in a way, framework of that. If, for example, a Boolean basic injection is detected, we as Invicti, we classify it as Invicti, as a critical vulnerability. But you can also change the severity level, customize it to, let's say, high or medium. So you can also have that level of flexibility and the customization from your end to change the template, make adjustments, and also at the end, build up your own knowledge database. So if there are certain steps that you found useful or links, you can also include them inside the reporting policy. So when the vulnerability has been redetected again, you will have what we suggest and also internal suggestions that was populated and built in from time to time. When it comes to the information itself, so here, for example, we do have what is the vulnerability. In this case, there was a Boolean-based SQL injection in the ID parameter using the following attack pattern. What is the impact if you don't fix it? Obviously, executing commands on an underlying operating systems, and obviously deleting tables and database. Actions required for you to fix it. So what are the validation? Obviously, there would require a level of sanitization. Requires skill to successfully re-exploit it from your side. Additional remediation. And there's also internal, external references together with classifications of scorecards such as OWASP, CWE, HIPAA, ISO, ASVS, and also the CVSS 3.0 and 3.1 together with vector string identification. So there's also the scoring at the bottom. On the top, we'll also have the request that we have sent and the response that we have received back. So the way that Invicti is able to identify vulnerabilities by sending a request with a payload, and then based on the response, we are able to validate that it was a true vulnerability. But we also have an additional technology, an exciting technology, which is the proof of exploit. You may picture the proof of exploit in a way as I always like to give it as a mental image of a speeding camera. So if you caught, for example, over speeding in a highway, the only way that you could get a fine and you confirm that it was in fact you driving and you were over speeding is because you have for example, a picture attached. And this is in fact using a similar, I would say, methodology in a way, since we're not just providing an alert, but we're going the extra mile and giving database name, database user, and also database version as evidence that we were able to get that level of information through the following vulnerability in a non-obviously destructive way. Since we're not deleting, we're not adding, we will just be reading from our side. Another exciting technology is our Shark technology. So we also have this Shark technology, which is basically combining IAST and SCA. So IAST stands for Interactive Application Security Testing, while the SCA stands for Software Composition Analysis. And basically by installing the Shark, you are including DUST, IAST, and SCA all in a single scan. Keep in mind that the IAST is obviously an optional component, highly recommended, because when you deploy the IAST on the web server side, you will get, for example, the exact line code number and also the stack trace. There's also a level of advantage where it's able to identify, for example, additional locations, since it's able to identify, it has more visibility of the sitemap, so hence it's able to find more vulnerabilities. And as we said, as we mentioned, there's also the level of identifying SCA, so open source components, dependencies. So we're also adding that additional level of identification. Now the IAST is in fact available for Java, PHP, .NET, and Node.js, which I would say covers more than major applications available, and the deployment methods are quite easy to do. For the reporting wise, there's also a variety of exported types that you can do. So it ranges from compliance to standard reporting, which are available in both PDF and HTML format. There's also mod security and F5 Big IP as a web application, web firewall, web rules exporting in a way for patching certain vulnerabilities. So essentially, if you found certain, let's say, critical vulnerabilities, and you have a specific time bound where you would like to fix these vulnerabilities, the WAF exporting and the patching will allow you to patch those vulnerabilities as a quick workaround until your team takes action and rolls out the next release, which obviously is catering for those vulnerabilities which were detected previously. Going into how simple it is, in fact, to run a scan, which we can go through now. Obviously, that ranges through the level of customization that you would like to include, meaning that scan policy, as you mentioned, the ability for you to say, I would like to run a default one, or you can also create your own scanning policy by simply selecting which vulnerabilities you would like to include, whether it's cross-site scripting and SQL injection only, whether it's for specific technology, like, for example, looking for out-of-date components. This is highly flexible and all depending on what you'd like to basically scan for. There's also the scope, so you can also exclude specific areas, essentially. This is highly recommended, first of all, when it comes to, let's say, fragile applications. If you know that certain areas are fragile, and if over attacked in a way might cause certain damage, you can also exclude that area, so we will not go through it. If you have certain applications which are in production, which by the way, we always suggest to go and in fact scan the applications directly when it comes to on staging environment, because obviously the impact of running scans on production would depend on the application. Very simple. So basically, if you have, for example, certain buttons inside your production which can delete users, delete database, there's a big probability that we will be clicking on those features, because from our side, we try to emulate on how hacker can in fact attack your application. So essentially trying to exploit every inch and corner of the application. Additional websites, so essentially giving you the option to easily include the backend and the front end and the backend on a single scan. So you have all the results segmented into one. Links, API, and definitions, very useful for API scanning. So therefore, you don't just have to provide, you can also provide, for example, a definition file of how the endpoints are being represented. So therefore, giving the scanner a pre-seed on what to go to, which again, we have Postman, we have Swagger, JSON, GraphQL. So I would say the majority are all supported. Business logic recorder, the ability for you to also record a logic execution. So if you have a specific complex flow, you will be able to cater for that flow by simply recording it, a macro recording of yourself executing that flow. So we will get to the end page. So if it's, for example, a booking application, you can book your room or your flight. So at the end, we'll be able to reach the end page. Scanning time window, adjusting when would be suitable for you to scan or not scan, and you can also adjust it according to what makes sense to you, essentially. But you have fully granularity on what you can mix and match. IS scanning, as I mentioned, to be available for .NET, PHP, Java, and Node.js. Optional feature, but highly recommended. And last thing, there's also the form-based authentication, which is very, in fact, easy to do. So that being said, I'm going to go to our test application. I'm going to go inside the login page. And I'm going to copy the URL. Next, I'm going to go to personas, enter the username and the password. And since it's a simple login form, I'm just going to write, in fact, test login. So verify login and logout, which will create the following simulations. Now, this is a simple login form, but if we do have certain more complex ones, we can also cater for that by spoon feeding the scanner on how to execute. So therefore, next time we'll be able to use this execution to successfully log in. It seems, yes, indeed. 1 second. In fact, here we are, the login simulation has passed since we're in the admin area, and next part is going inside the logout detection. So we'll also identify certain keywords or redirect based. So if we unauthenticate, we'll be able to relog in back again. And there's also other authentication methods. There's basic and Kerberos, there's header, there's client certificates, and also OAuth2 authentication. Keep in mind that the tool is also multi-user based, so you can add as many users as you would like, and also control the access permission of every single user. So this is a single user, and a single user can also be given permission to add targets to a certain limit. You can also assign a user direct, but also a team access. So direct is giving a user direct access to a specific group of application and a specific role. But you can also have the option to create a default template. So for example, this is team 1. Whoever is assigned to team 1 will have the ability to start scans and manage websites, but only inside the team 1 group. So therefore you are matching them, that who is assigned to the following team 1 will be able to do the following actions on the following applications. Roles-wise, those are very granular, so we do have default ones, but there you can also create your own default. So you can also create your own role-based access by selecting around 84 different permissions that you would like to specifically include as part of a role. And to successfully log in the users, you can also make use of our SSO-based integration with Google, Bing Identity, Okta, Azure AD, Microsoft AD, and also SAML integration. Lastly, going into the integrations, which I was like, if I may, is what brings automation to Invicti, where if you have, for example, an issue tracking systems or CID systems, or even making use of our API, you will be able to create a specified flow that whenever, for example, let's say you're using Azure Pipeline and Jira as an issue tracker. So you starting from Azure Pipeline, so whenever there's a new build, we can integrate with that pipeline. Once that has been executed, that will trigger a scan inside of Invicti automatically. You can also set a threshold. For example, if Invicti finds a medium or let's say a high and a critical vulnerability, stop the pipeline. So you also have the option to fail the build. Once the scan has been completed, using our integration with Jira, you can also then create a custom notification workflows that, for example, say once a scan completes either on any website, a specific group of applications or a specific website, do the following action: send an SMS to the following users, and also email and SMS. So basically, you can also specify which one. You can also set a threshold, like for example, only send an email and an SMS unless there's something urgent. So you don't want to, for example, be notified in the weekend if there's an informational vulnerability. So you can set a specific threshold. You can also specify what type of reports you would like to receive automatically as an attachment. And you can basically select even define formats. And the last part, what ties everything together, is that automatically, once the scan has finished, send the vulnerabilities to my Jira issue tracking, send each and every vulnerability which have a severity greater than or equal to medium, but also if there are certain vulnerabilities which are 100% confirmed by Invicti, send them also. So therefore, these vulnerabilities are being automatically pushed into your Jira issue tracker, or it could be any issue tracker, really. And you have the full cycle being done, where someone is, for example, has committed the pipeline. Those vulnerabilities, for example, have been pushed into the issue tracking project. The vulnerabilities are being worked from the issue tracker. And if we have to take, for example, Jira, continue with the Jira integration, we also have webhook available. So therefore, once the end user closes the ticket inside of Jira Pro project, that ticket will then be sent back to Invicti automatically, retested, and based on the outcome, we can also reopen back the ticket inside of Jira. So if we find that the ticket, although it was changed, it's still exploitable, we will be able to reopen back the ticket again. So we're having the full connection in both ways available. With that being said, I would like to basically stop here. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to jump in and ask away. I'll be more than happy to basically go through any areas that you would like to basically ask.
Liam, we see that we don't have any questions for now, but basically I want to talk about a special important point. We have to say it in the beginning. Basically, Invicti is the owner of two giants in the area of the Dust tools. It's Akunetics and NetSparker. They bought both of them in the last 2 years ago, I guess, and they became, we can say that's the best tool ever, that all the options you can have for the Dust Yast solutions. And basically, the idea or the need for the customer is to close all the gaps in the applications / site websites, of course, and avoid all the entrance of malwares or different issues that can make problems to you in the workday or daily work. So this is the basic point of the Invicti. And maybe you can show them when they receive some damage or something in eye level. So what they can do with it and how to fix it or move it, and a short explanation of the 4 or 5 different versions of the new Invicti, with a mix of the Akunetics and NetSparker, and a short difference between them, on-prem, not on-prem, and all this.
So yes, so just to continue to echo on that. So yes, the Akunetics and the NetSparker brand has both are falling under the Invicti umbrella. What we can benefit obviously from or what we are benefiting is that Akunetics and NetSparker has been in the Dust game for quite some time now. So that meaning that prehistoric research and knowledge has not been combined in a single company, and the best features of both tools are being both included into a single one. Now, I am seeing some Q&A questions inside the chat box, how to deal with APIs. Now, for API scanning is also quite easy. The tool, in a way, can scan any application that can be reached over HTTP or HTTPS. We briefly, in fact, touched base on this regarding API scanning, where you could also provide a definition file. So just to give you an idea, bear with me one moment. Let me, in fact, open a test API application, REST API. API profile. Where, for example, here we are including a definition file which has the API endpoints if it's purely API. And we have also can include certain authentication methods, such as, for example, basic authentication, or you're making use of authorization barrier keys, or even OAuth2. So all the options are in fact available. Amit, do let me know if I have answered your question on how to deal with APIs. But once you provide the definition file, once you provide the authentication required for us to successfully reach those endpoints, it's just a matter of including it. No worries. Size of targets, companies using Invicti. Size of target companies. I mean, to be honest with you, the size of companies using Invicti goes from Fortune 500 companies to even smaller ones. So the beauty of the tool is it's highly scalable. So it can be in fact used by a small organization which has, let's say, 5 to 10 targets, to an organization which has, for example, thousands of applications. So it's in fact highly scalable, Mark.
I can tell you about the Israeli market, that we have customers in Israel with our partners that are SMB. For example, a company who made a small applications and want to put it on and sell it or something like this. Every startup will make an application. We have a lot of users where companies will make applications. So all those companies buy Akunetics because they want to be sure that everything is closed, that there are no gaps or open doors, make the malwares to go into their sites and arming. So we started SMB and to the government and the army and the enterprise. So it's basically for every company who have a site or a website or an application.
I mean, again, it would depend on the organization. I mean, the benefit that we're seeing obviously with high, let's say Fortune 500 companies, is that we can easily integrate with their system flow. So in fact, they don't require to even log into Invicti. So once they set it up, once they have configured the applications, can integrate them to their pipelines and issue tracking systems, Invicti will run in a way as alone without any manual intervention required. Because again, let's say there is integration with each pipeline coming from each developer, and each developer is responsible for their own development or their changes, and everything is being automated, being scanned automatically, being retested automatically, being reported automatically without any manual intervention. So I would say yes, it ranges from 400 to 500 companies to even the smaller ones. Yes, so our discovery tool is basically a method that we are able to identify applications that might belong to the organization, to your organization. So 1 second, just go through ignored, and that might belong to your organization as a way to ensure that you have full visibility of your entire attack surface. So essentially, if there are specific applications that can be in fact found by your email domain, and we can also in fact go inside the sources. So if you go to settings, there is email matching, website matching, registered domain, reverse cycle lookup, organization name matching, or you can also add your own manual input. We are able to identify those applications which are publicly available that belongs to you. So essentially giving you full visibility, even if the marketing team or the HR team did a quick either marketing campaign or a recruitment campaign, and they left it open, we will be able to identify that back door, and we'll make you aware that, listen, the following applications are all being pointed to your organization. And obviously from there, you could either take them down or rescan them to ensure that they are using certain safety precautions, or if they're vulnerable or not. If you have any questions, even regarding integrations, API, IaaS, SCA, feel free to jump in. I hope the transition of Akinetics and a Sparker brand under Invicti is clear. Obviously, again, feel free to ask anything from your side. But as also Marcel has in fact mentioned, just to echo again, the knowledge, the features, the best parts of the tool are all being included into a single platform. So it's in a way best of both breeds.
So a last point, basically, you have to be sure that the other tools in the market are most of them cloud-based, and they don't have the option to be on-prem. So in Invicti, they mix the things and give the option to make it be or cloud or on-prem. So you take both things in the same platform. You don't have to use another tool to make the on-prem issues. So you can show something here to explain the difference in the scans of the on-prem or the cloud? Yeah.
My apologies, Marcel, it looks like it glitched for a moment from my side. Could you
So
repeat the last point again?
There's something to show here to basically show the difference between the platforms, cloud or on-prem.
They are in fact identical, so you wouldn't be losing any features if you switch with the on-prem platform, because they are in fact the only difference is that is just that you have it installed on your machine, and in fact Invicti is installed on AWS.
Right, and you need some special things to do in the port or something. What some
now for
simple.
Now, for installation, obviously, we have it all documented. So and essentially, you would require the main web app, which is the one that we are seeing right now. There's also the scanning engines, which will be running the actual scans. There's also the authentication verifier, which will run the login verification mode. So so then these components will all point to the main web app as a base to control the agents and the verifiers together. Obviously, again, we can also share with you the prerequisites that is required, essentially whitelisting port 443, but we have it all documented, and as long as we can, again, these components can reach the main web app, you'll be able to easily install it.
And the customers here can use different users to get into the platform and use it as much as they can. Am I right? So
yes. As we also briefly went through, both on-prem and online are multi-user based, so you can add as many users as you would like. And there's also the SSO integration available.
the license goes by targets. So the minimum targets of the license is 5, and we going up as much as you need. And you can map your target and see if one license would be enough for you, or you might need more. You can do it testing the site, right? The web, your target. So you open it, you test it, and see how much license you need. What is the target? You can expand what is the target.
Of course. Let me just, in fact, open a link. One moment. Bear with me one moment. The page is loading from my side. In the meantime, I know that there's also another query from Mark. So NetSparker customers can easily include the other functionality from the other companies. On-prem is equal to cloud for functionality. So yes, on-prem is equal to cloud for functionalities. I'm not sure if I understood the first part, Mark. Maybe you could elaborate. But when it comes to the functionality of the tool, again, as we briefly mentioned, the best parts of NetSparker, for example, the proof-based scanning, it's, for example, it's vulnerability detection and integration, and with the Akinetics features such as the IS and the BLR and so on, have all been combined into a single tool. Now, to continue on what also Marcelo was mentioning regarding on how our licensing works. So we work by target based. So if you have HTTP, HTTPS, and www or example.com/test, these are considered as a single website, single target. But if they have example.com, test.example.com, example.com on port 81, or api.example.com, these are considered as different targets, and in the following will consume for different targets or licensing slots. But bear in mind that that slot can be scanned an unlimited number of times. So there is no cap on how many you can basically scan. It's just those applications which have been allocated a seat, those will be sent, those can be in fact scanned unlimitedly. I hope that was clear. But again, feel free to ask anything which you might want further clarification on.
Great. So I see we have we answer all the chat questions over here. Amit and Mark and the others guy here. If there's something more interesting to drill down in a few minutes, we can use you down for more interesting things you can show us here. And anyway, for those who cannot see us today, we record this meeting and we put it on Invicti and multi-point site. So those who couldn't come today and hear us, you will receive the option to download and hear it later. Okay. So we will be now all over. Liam, if you don't have any special things to show us, so we will say all of you, thank you very much for being with us. And we'll see you on next meet. Wait, I see more questions. Wait a minute. Okay, we answer about this. Mark, it's okay. Mark and Amit, thank you very much for the questions. Good questions. Liam, thank you very much for your time and for your investment in our area. And hope to see you soon in our next meetings.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice day.
Bye,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.